Hey there. Welcome back to another episode of the Collecting Keys Real Estate Investing Podcast, the podcast by off-market operators for off-market operators. This is the show where we like to just talk about how to run your off-market real estate business, the ups and downs, all the crazy shit that we deal with in this business. And I feel like now more than ever, the focus is like it's getting tighter and tighter, like the group of people in real estate investing, but in general, like in off-market investing, flippers and stuff, that's getting tighter and tighter, and becomes more and more important to talk about these things and get a competitive edge out there so we can keep, growing and succeeding. We talked a little bit about that today on a podcast we recorded earlier with old Dill Pill and Mike. But then also just in the Scale community, which if you're not familiar with it, that's our community where really it's just honestly a peer-to-peer community at this point, where we all come together a couple times a week, some phone calls, and talk about the different things we're doing in our business. It's pretty awesome. I enjoy the hell out of it. But anyways, in that community, just seeing all of the operators, like we've actually really reduced the size of the community going into this year, the last 4 or 5 months. And the folks that are in there are really been working with us. They started from scratch, a lot of them over a year ago, and now they're just in the day-to-day of their business, and they're starting to see really good success, where many of them 6, 7, 8 months ago were just like, I don't know if I'm going to make it. They stuck with it, and now they're coming into Q2 going, I think I have more money than I've ever had before. What do I do with it? How should I allocate this capital? Because capital allocation is an important thing, and that's something Mike and I preach. If you've listened to this show at all, whenever we're talking about challenges we've had in our business, a lot of it comes down to capital allocation, which is not my goal of this podcast. My goal of this podcast is to talk about a conversation I had recently with a good friend of mine that I actually met in a different mastermind. Really enjoyed talking to him, and he'd recently moved to Texas and is really thinking about standing up like a full-on marketing operation to do off-market real estate there. And I'm really, I encourage him to do that because I know he'll be very, very successful at it. He's got a portfolio. He's in a great spot. He's got a portfolio that covers his basically living expenses that he's accumulated off market himself, just hustling and grinding. And so he understands the game. He has his monthly nut covered, right? And he's living below his means so that he can figure out what he wants to do and figure out how to take advantage of opportunity. And so I've been kind of like coaching him a little bit and giving him my input on how do you run like a mass marketing machine. But I think it really ties well into the current time that we're in the market, because it feels like it's hard. If you go read the headlines in the news, like the stock market's up, the stock market's down. We don't really know what side of the fence we're on. Are we going to make a bunch of money this year? We're not going to make a bunch of money, like generally speaking, from the economy standpoint. And what I'm seeing is that it was tough coming out of winter for us and a lot of folks in the Scale community, but as it usually always is, right? It's always never the busiest. Coming off of Christmas in January, especially if you're in the northern climates, is never like really popping. But more so now, just looking at it and looking at the other folks that are really truly operating, like a lot of the noise is gone, like all like the gurus are disappearing. They're starting to actually have, a lot of them are getting class action lawsuits against them, and they're closing up shop, or they're just struggling to do anything meaningful because their following's shrinking. And I think their egos are like shrinking with it or growing or whatever. I don't know what's happening there, but anyways, it's getting to be tighter and tighter. And the folks that are really sticking to it and consistently getting after it, they're starting to see the fruits of their labor, just like they would a year ago, 2 years ago. But it just seems to be a little bit more clear of a path. And I'm fortunate to get to see all the people in our Scale community, not just do well, but like, hey, I'm seeing myself do well, and I'm getting to see the reflection of that. Not that they're just copying what we're doing, but seeing the reflection of my feelings. And like, yes, it's affirmation. Like other people are doing the same thing and they're doing well. And if you're doing it well, you're doing it consistently, you're gonna make money. And so that's when I'm talking to my buddy here moving to Texas. Like I feel very convicted in how seeing his skill level and seeing that the machine and the marketing process, the sales process, the SOPs, the business model, it's very simple. It's not complex at all, but getting to see this over and over again work for people, it's been something that I just strongly believe anybody can really pick up if you're committed to it. And certainly with my friend and a couple of the questions, we talk about, one of them is like the marketing, like, can I just spend money on marketing? And generally speaking, yes. But how should you do this? And this is kind of one of my beliefs. Like, if you're listening to this show and you've got a job or a company that covers your nut, maybe you work a W-2 job and you're just trying to figure out how can I get into real estate? How can I use this to maybe grow my wealth or to pivot away from my W-2? Keep that job or keep, if you have a portfolio that covers your nut like my buddy, great. Just keep doing that and let that cover your nut. Because there's nothing better than not having to worry about your bills while you're trying to build something new. So do that. You can go all into it. It's not a big deal. Like you guys have heard Mike's story. That's how he did it. But if you can just commit 90 days of spend, ideally 180 days or 6 months of spend, but commit that 90 days of spend. And I always like to say, do direct mail. And if you have the time in your schedule, cold calling yourself before you outsource it. Direct mail, allocate $3,500 to $5,000 to those, to the direct mail if you can. If you can't, then you can just stick with cold calling. You're going to get 1 to 2 leads per hour cold calling every single day if you can do that. So like I was telling my buddy, like if you can do both of those because he has time, like do that, because you're going to get consistently solid leads coming in, but you're not going to get enough leads to have enough at bats to scale your business quickly. So pick up the phone and do cold calling. And also it's going to make you better at being able to outsource that cold calling and know what good cold calling looks like. You know, we've started a junior acquisitions program in our company here in Spokane, where we have 3, high school graduate, just like recently high school graduated kids cold calling for us, and we're teaching them, coaching them on real estate, helping them understand maybe what the next pivot in their life may be, because they are real estate curious, but they're kicking ass for us and generating leads. And American-based cold callers with desire and motivation are always going to do better than just outsourcing it to somewhere offshore. So my point being is, that's an option for you to build that skill set as well. And it's no cost to you. It's just time and hustle. So building that. But another question he had, he's like, well, there's so many options for marketing. Like, what do you guys do? And this is the guy, like, honestly, one of the main points of this podcast I want to talk about. This isn't necessarily a newbie podcast of how to start up a business. It's really how to adjust and adapt your marketing as you go and to be consistent. We never say no to anything. Mike and I, I'll use cold calling as an example. Mike and I have done cold calling in every which way. We've had Filipinos, Egyptians, Pakistanis. We've had Indians. We've had people all over the globe doing it for us. We've insourced it. We even built a cold calling company and sold it this last year. So it's like, we know cold calling. It's like one of our things where it's not my favorite. Direct mail has always been my favorite, but we know cold calling really well. Like I said, we've done it from every angle, upside and down. And we never say no to it. We come back to it. And one of the reasons why is because I don't know what it is, if it's moon cycles or what, but cold calling, sometimes it's really, really good in some markets, and other markets it's terrible. But then fast forward 6 months and you start hearing about some dude who's closed 5 deals off of cold calling. You're like, what's the difference? Like, I don't know. Just this is how cold calling works. And it's not how cold calling works. Cold calling goes ups and downs, just like any marketing strategy. But for some reason, I don't know, like I said, maybe it's the moon cycles, it can do really well for you. And also in your business, you got to look at, what do you need? Do you need to get some at bats? Maybe you do need some cold call leads where they're not going to be as expensive as a direct mail lead. If you're spending $250 basically per lead on a direct mail, like a good solid direct mail lead, or $100 or whatever it is in your market, you kind of want that to go well. You don't want to just burn that money. And so cold calling might be a good way to get extra leads in there, get some at bats, and you're going to grind, you're going to work a little harder. Bringing in an American-based cold caller is going to be a little more expensive, and you're going to be a little less grindy. You're going to get less leads, but they're going to be better leads. And so there's all these options. And that's where we're at in our business, is like, we don't really need to outsource cold calling. We want to insource it because we want those more high quality leads for our acquisitions team. But also we're looking at the progression of our company and like, hey, one of these folks might step into more of a senior acquisitions role, and we want to train them and coach them from the bottom and bring them in the company. So that's where we're at in our business. It's different for everybody, but we never say no to a marketing source. Q3 last year, we started PPL. That was actually the first time Mike and I personally have done PPL. We had really good success. Going into Q4, early Q1 this year, it was terrible. Like, we were wasting money on it. So we stopped. But then going into Q2 this year, we had a little bit of credits on there, and we're like, our lead flow was a little bit slower on the mail side. So we're like, let's turn it on and just see it. It's like, let's test the waters, dip your toe in it. And if you can see early success, pop off with it, take it, do what you can with it. And then don't be afraid to stop it if it's not serving you well, but then come back to it, right? Like, don't say no to anything. That's one thing I want to convey here is like, Sure, cold calling might suck right now, but it doesn't mean I'm not willing to go back to it. And if my business looks different 6 months from now or a year from now or 3 years from now, I may need to change. Like, I don't really believe anybody when they say, oh, I've built my business and I've only always done cold calling for the last 10 years. It's just like, that's all you've done? Like, I don't believe so. And like, cause that's just not how it works. The only thing that I would say works consistently always is direct mail. But even then, like, it's not a linear growth model. If you just spend more on direct mail, you make more money and you just keep growing your business. That's not how it works. So if you told me that, I would just not believe you. You need to have some diversity in your lead generation because sometimes direct mail doesn't hit or the post office delays your postage for a month. And if you don't have another lead source, which is actually why we got into PPLs, because we're like, we need to layer in another quick lead source. Let's turn the faucet on immediately. And PPL is good for that because as a lead gets generated, you just buy it from them, right? And you can use multiple lead sources, multiple PPL sources and get quick leads. And so same thing with cold calling. You can spin that up pretty fast. Texting, obviously, that's another marketing strategy that we did when we sold our cold calling company, but with the laws and regulations, we just kind of stepped away from it for now from doing it. So, and that goes with other, there's tons of other lead sources, right? But my main point is you got to be dedicated to a marketing strategy and don't ever say no forever to anything in this damn business because there's so many times like you turn on a new lead source and you get a deal, you make 30 grand on that deal and that pays for 6 to 8 months of that lead source. Like, okay, you can't say that that's a bad investment. But the other thing, as I was coaching with my friend that I talked about is like, don't get wrapped up, and Mike and I preach this, so this is not new to any of our listeners, but don't get wrapped up in those early flips. Just wholesale, man. Try to get to 3 to 5 wholesale deals a month, consistently. Giving yourself 90 days of investment into your business with the paid marketing and your time. And then at the end of the 90 days, I'm not saying you'll close a deal, but what you will have is you'll have a pipeline of people to follow up with, and there will be a deal in there, and you probably will have at least offers made or deals under contract that are going into escrow to close. And then once that faucet breaks, then you get that recurring income and you keep going from there, and then you can keep growing and you can get to that 3 to 5 deals. 3 to 5 consistent wholesale deals a month is going to generate you likely a 6-figure income, if not a multi-6-figure income, just depending on your wholesale average deal size right now, which we were up at around 21,000, 22,000. And then going into Q2 this year, we've dropped down just 2025. We're locally about 16,500, which is fine. That's kind of where we bounce up between 16, 17 and 22, just depending on the deals we have for that year. But if you think about that, if you can do 3 deals, even at 15 grand a month, that's $45,000 in revenue a month. And you're going to have pretty high margins with that as a solo operator or a small operation. So you just got to get to that point. Don't get shiny object syndrome and don't stretch yourself to go buy and hold, because that's what you got in this business to do. Don't stretch yourself to go and do a flip. Just focus on getting really, really good at underwriting deals that you can wholesale and make a profit on. And from there, by the end of 2025, was what I told my friends, you're going to have a freaking operation that generates a ton of income. You got your nut covered by your portfolio that you've built with all that hard work. Now you have this fun money, this play money. And this goes for those of you just starting out with that W-2 job. For those of you that are diving into it, once you get to that 3 to 5 consistent deals a month, you're going to be like some of the other folks in the scale community where they're like, hey, I've got more money than I need. What do I do with it? I'm kind of like at this conundrum of like, do I reinvest into my business? Do I have fun with it? Do I invest it somewhere else because I don't want to go buy a rental property right now? And all of the above are options, but you got to really work your butt off to get to that point. And it's really not that long of a timeline. If you look at it right now, starting Q2 2025, I strongly believe if you follow these systems, you will be able to have a full-time operation in 6 months. It's not going to be easy. It's going to take some work, but you want to do it. So if you're sitting there on the fence thinking about, gosh, does this really work? I'm telling you right now, it does work, and it works in all markets. And you just have to be willing to put the effort in and see it as an investment into yourself and doing what you need to do to get there. So anyways, I've blabbed on about this. It really started with just a random thought when I was talking to my buddy of wanting to spin up his off-market business in Texas. And, I hope that I was able to convey to you that the consistency of the marketing is key, but also being open to the different marketing strategies at multiple points in your business is what's helped Mike and I. So hopefully that's something that you can try out if you're running an existing business and you said no to another lead source, but you're feeling like you're just not getting the leads that you really need to get to keep your business growing. Look at those other lead sources, be willing to try them again, try them in a different light, try them in a different method, try them in a different way. Listen to more podcasts where we're going to talk about these things. Maybe even join the Scale community. This is all we do is talk about this stuff a couple times a week in our Scale community calls. So hopefully you enjoyed this. Hit me up on Instagram if you have questions, thoughts, concerns, anything about what I said here at InvestorMan Dan. And have a great weekend. We'll catch you all next week. See ya.